So we would take these blankets that he'd throw in the back of the car, and then we would ruin my mother's clotheslines. We would hang the blankets and build ourselves temples and forts. And the extra blankets, we would wrap around us and play like we were Trojans, Roman warriors, you know? And we'd have all these games with Gail and Eddie and Chucky and Stevie Petaway, and all the kids on the block would come over to the house and we would play. Imagination, it was a wonderful thing. There was a guy who lived across the street from us on Harvard. That's back when LA neighborhoods were known by their name. We called it Morningside Park. Now it's called South Central LA. But it was called Morningside Park, or like the main streets, Western and Manchester. And so there was this guy who lived across the street from us, and he had this Chrysler Imperial. Oh my God, this is the cleanest car on the planet. He kept that car spotless. He also had one of those, correct me if I got that wrong, is it dichondra lawns? You know, the look, right? It was all the clovers. You know, back when they thought water was going to just flow from the Owens Valley forever. And then they realized they were draining Mono Lake, but then, okay, anyway. So he had one of those kind of lawns. His life was just all perfect, right? But we never really knew him very well. He was just a guy across the street. So when his grandson would come to visit, he kind of had that same energy. We really didn't get to play with him. He sort of played by himself, you know? And he would do this really weird thing. I was sitting at the dining room table looking out. We had one of those houses with a big giant picture window that my mother used to paint Santa on a surfboard on it for Halloween, for Christmas season. But anyway, so I'm sitting there and I'm looking out the window, and here's this little kid, right? And the house it was a big yard, and there were, I guess, no fences in their backyard, because he would sit in the front yard and he would go, and then he'd disappear, and he'd run and he'd go, I guess, behind the house, and he'd come out on the other side and he'd go, and he would fall, and then he'd run back over this side and he'd go, and then he'd come out and he'd go, and he's like playing war all by himself. What a great imagination, you know? I know. He's locked up somewhere now. No. I think his name's Obama. He's president. No, it's like so. But this thing about imagination, it's one of the ways that we are able to use to stay in that happier still place. We can see we're a very interesting creature. We like the future. We also have that thing we talked about some time ago called later, but we also have this thing called future. And we like to know what the future is. And the great thing about our imagination is it allows us to project ourselves into the future. We can't travel there. We don't have a time machine, but we have a brain machine that allows us to go into our future. Now, the problem is, though, that the imagination doesn't always tell the future the way the future plays itself out. One of the things that happens with our imagination is, because there's so much going on, it fills in gaps and it leaves out stuff. It fills in gaps with things we think we want, and it leaves out the stuff that's really going to happen. And so when we get there, the future doesn't look quite like we imagined it. Another problem with the imagination: it tends to take how you're feeling right now and project that onto your future. So if you're not careful where you are at the moment that you're dreaming about your future, you may take the crap that's in your present moment and project that forward into your future, and your future doesn't look so bright. Problem number 2 with the future, with the imagination. Problem number 3 with your imagination: things tend to turn out better in the future than you believe they really are. Like the job that you lost, that you thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? How am I going to make a living? And then you get the new job, and 6 months later you're going, I love this job. That getting fired was the best thing that ever happened to me. We have this way of rationalizing when we get into our future that allows us to misproject when we're in the past, which is the now, except when you compare it to the future. Did you follow me on that? See, I was about to say, exactly, never mind. You know, about this rationalization, I remember that back in the 900 number days, I was going to get a 900 number, 1-900 rationalized, and you could call my number and I would give you an excuse for how you could skip work that day or something like that. Because rationalization is really what we do, and that's a lot of the things that we do with our imagination. We rationalize things about into the future, you see. Now, Dr. Holmes is it tells us that if we are looking for lasting happiness, if we're looking for lasting happiness, we must express ourselves, live from our true nature. Now, when we talk about moving toward the future and keeping our happiness, our lasting happiness as we make that movement, we follow this. We must express ourselves and live from our true nature. And our true nature is to create, and to seek happiness. Those are the two things that we're all about. And if you think about the Genesis story, and there are Genesis creation stories in every part of the world, but our particular Genesis creation story, every time the divine being created something, saw that was good. Saw that was good. So if we want to feel good, we need to create things. And if we want to live from our true nature and express ourselves, we must create on a regular basis. And if we create the things that are called through within us, back to that love ourselves just as we are, included in the just as you are is the idea that you're to create that will bring you lasting happiness and allow you to feel good. A friend of mine one day, I called him up and I said, "Hey, Spence, how you doing?" He says, "I got 99 problems and reality is not one of them." Isn't that a sweet line? 99 problems and reality is not one of them. Your reality is you're here to create. You're here to express yourself. You're here to stay in lasting happiness. Now that doesn't mean that the stuff that's going on is always going to feel good. But if you can have this as your base point, as your depth of understanding of how the universe works, this too shall pass. I know I'm prepared for it. I love myself just as I am, which includes the ability to get beyond whatever this challenge is that I'm here right now dealing with. You learn how to work it. You learn how to work it to stay in your good. Another Spencer story. One day he was said he was making breakfast. And he said he was having a conversation with me in his head. So he decided to call me on the phone and have it for real and see how it turned out. See, that's what we get to do in life. We get to stop having it in our head and actually go about and do it. Back to Dr. Holmes. Treat and move your feet. See, our treatment in many occasions is, sure, we treat because we understand that it's already available in the universe and we're bringing it forth in our lives by making our statement of affirmation in the realization step of treatment. Then we have to go about the business of creating, and as we create it, we move ourselves into this space of lasting happiness. See, the future is really hard to see. We know that our imagination can sometimes fail us. It's hard to see. But as Daniel Gilbert in his lovely book, Stumbling on Happiness, says, we're all headed that way anyhow. Well, we have to make some decisions on how we're going to get there. And one of the ways that he comes up with to make decisions on how we get into our future and how we can stay with this happier still prospect is very interesting. He calls it surrogation. There are people who know, who have done many of the things that we want to do. He calls them the surrogates. We can just use this very easy method called asking for advice. How crazy is that? Now you may think, I don't know if I want to do that, but think about it. Almost everything that we know secondhand. We know that New York is the largest city in America. Not because we've gone to New York and counted every person in New York City. It's because somebody told us that. We read it somewhere. Google is my friend. Or YouTube. Recently, Kabirdas, who is Johanna's son, not my son. You guys were here a few weeks ago. I was hoping he's going to be here today, but he's not here today. But a few weeks back, he had a flat tire. And he had never changed a tire before. And I was like, whoa, okay, not a problem. Tell you what, YouTube, DIY, tire change. Even put in the model of the car. Found a video for a Mazda 3 tire change. Send him the link, boom, instant tire change. So much of what's available to us as we move forward is out there for us to learn about, to hear about, by using this thing called surrogations. We are very much into show and tell. We used to do it at school all the time. That's a lovely way to get ourselves moving into our future. Now, the problem with this advice thing is that sometimes we don't want to heed that advice because not everybody we know is like Obi-Wan Kenobi. These are not the droids you're looking for. These are not the droids we're looking for. Move along, move along. Everybody doesn't have that ability like Obi-Wan does, you know? So you're like, why should I even ask that person any advice? Why should I care about what they have to say? But if you think about it, If you think about it really carefully, as Daniel Gilbert says, every one of us is surrounded by a platoon of dear Abbeys who can recount their own experiences and in so doing tell us which futures are most worth wanting. We have people that have already moved to Cincinnati, and we can ask them, what is it like to live in Cincinnati? You know, you want to find out whether you should have another slice of pie, find out who made the pie. If John made the pie, you want another slice. If I made the pie, maybe not. See, these are great things to figure out. If you want a career in multi-level marketing, there is somebody who can tell you no judgments. You can tell you that that's a career you might want to do. Yeah. I got a whole garage full of products for you right now. Yeah. And then, because of our own faith system, we have a wonderful place where we can go for advice. We can go within to the gap. We can go for the still small voice. What a sweet spot that is to heed some advice. That's like the supreme Dear Abby. You sit, you contemplate, you open yourself up, let go of the ego commands, and just allow the truth to unfold within you. And you get a really wonderful idea of where to move forward in your life. Because see, sometimes the advice thing doesn't work. And one of the reasons it doesn't work is that most of us, we may not think that we are superior to someone else, but we definitely believe that we are unique. Each and every one of us believes we are unique, better than average. In fact, Gilbert says, if you are like most people, then like most people, you don't know you're like most people. I love that. That's my quote of the day. I really love that one. Somebody snap that and put it on Facebook. If you are like most people, then like most people, you don't know you're like most people. So we really specialize in being unique. It's the way we know ourselves that makes it happen. You see, we know ourselves from the inside out. We know ourselves from our thoughts. We know ourselves from how we are, what we're contemplating. You see, others, we only know them by their words and their deeds, but we know what's happening before our words and before our deeds. So that puts us in a very unique position for knowing ourselves, and therefore we think that I don't want to ask the other person what it's like in Cincinnati. I want to go there myself. We want to experience it for ourselves because we think that no one else can know it for us. We prize our uniqueness. How many times have you said to somebody, I got a shirt just like that, only it's in red? It's not even just like that if it's in red, but we'll say that to somebody because we want them to know, yeah, I got a shirt like that, but it's different than your shirt. We prize that uniqueness about it. And we think that people are more different from us than they really are. But remember, back a few slides ago, really, our nature is shared. We all want to create. We all want to be happy. That makes us all pretty much alike. That means that in many ways, the advice we get from others is likely not to steer us wrong. And if it was, great thing is, we get to choose again and start one more time. And that's really what it gets down to. It gets down to our choices. Happiness is in our hands. Happiness is up to us to figure out. And we have a really lovely amount of choices that we get to make in life. It's really interesting how life works out for us. We're among the first peoples in the history of humankind, of course, that gets to make a lot of choices that didn't happen for so many years. Like we get to choose where to live, and we get to choose what we're going to do, and we get to choose with whom we're going to do it with, where that didn't always happen. I mean, tailors tailored, right? And farmers farmed and hunters hunted. That's the way it worked for so many years. And when you finished doing that and you had some children, your children tailored and hunted and farmed too. It wasn't until recently as the oceans became something we could really get across real easy, or mountains were something we could cross over really well going to the next valley, that we got to a place where you could choose that you don't want to be a tailor and you want to be a brain surgeon instead, or you want to be the president, or whatever it is. We get choices. You see, the vanishing boundaries of our lives have allowed us to shrink the world down. With the internet, you can tell a joke, and in 30 seconds, it's being told in India if the right person's online at the same time as you posted that joke. This is a really small world. We have some wonderful choices available to us. Now, frequently, though, we choose pleasure over happiness, and pleasure is a short-time benefit. The question is, to ask ourselves is, will it bring us happiness? Will the event we're looking for bring us to a place of joy and pleasure over the long haul as opposed to the short haul? Are we going for the short sail, or are we going for the long, right? Let's go to the Dalai Lama for a minute. He says, if we approach our choices in life, all right, if we approach our choices in life, keeping happiness in mind, it is easier to give up things that are ultimately harmful to us, even if those things bring us momentary pleasure. If we approach our choices in life, keeping the desire for happiness in mind, it's easier to give up things that are ultimately harmful to us, even if those things bring us momentary pleasure. Now that's a challenge sometimes, to ask that question and to come up with the correct answer, and to deal with the delayed gratification or even the opportunity to miss something. Because sometimes that's what we think, we're going to miss something. But it's not about denying ourselves something. It's about accepting something. It's about moving into that space of joy, into that space of long-term happiness, even though we may give up some temporary gain, some temporary happy moment, a joyful moment, you see. The key to staying happier still is to notice where you are, to notice what is true about you. Now, that secret that I talked about with the Dalai Lama is very simple. He has two things he says to get us into lasting happiness: contentment and a calm mind. Contentment and a calm mind. He says, if you possess this inner quality, a calmness of mind, a degree of stability within, then even if you lack various external facilities, even if you lack it, things that you would normally consider necessary for happiness, it is still possible to live a happy and joyful life. It's really interesting how they've looked at different countries around the world, those that are prosperous or those that might be called wealthy and those that are not. You know, once you reach a point where you got food on the table and you're warm and your kids are fed and clothed, the rest of the money that you collect is basically like a pile of paper kind of just hanging out. I mean, you can do things with it, sure enough. And I'm not against prosperity. I mean, this is a new shirt. I'm so happy to have it, right? I like new stuff. That's not the point. But the point is that we can get so consumed by our consumption that we forget that really the basics of life is what keeps us happy. If we can move beyond the external facilities in life and go, even though we think they might be necessary for our happiness, we can move into a happy and joyful life. That's what the Dalai Lama is saying us. If we can learn some level of contentment. And that's about learning. And see, this is why we come here. And this is why our particular teaching is so wonderful. As we practice the science of mind and spirit, as Dr. Thiel likes to call it, science of mind and spirit, he always adds that at the end, we can understand that the mind, which is hanging out with the brain, the mind is in tune with an instrument in our body that is infinitely malleable, moldable, and it has this plasticity around it. So as we begin to calm our minds through meditation, through our spiritual practices, we can shift our thinking patterns and shift the way our neurons work, build new neural pathways that will allow us to not get so freaked out when we don't get the Thanksgiving Day black deal. You know, if we don't get the Black Friday Thanksgiving deal, we're okay, because we know that we have what we want and we like what we have. You see, so often we spend our time comparing ourselves to somebody else or to some other thing, and in that journey of comparison, we blow up our calm mind. We go beyond our moment of contentment because we're thinking, I don't have what he has. A lovely thing to practice, to try. Would you try listing this? Say, I'm glad I am not. Think about this a little bit. Say, I am glad I am not, and think about something that you're glad you're not, you know, right? And another exercise is to go, I wish I were a. If you do, I'm glad I'm not, and you do that frequently enough, you'll build your muscle for contentment. But when you go to the, I wish I were a blah, 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 you build your muscle for dissatisfaction. You begin to worry about what you don't have, as opposed to being happy and grateful for what you do. If we can build our gratitude muscle and get ourselves into a space of knowing that what we have is exactly what we want and we like it, we've developed the calm mind. See, the calm mind knows that the right choice is sometimes difficult, that it sometimes asks us for a sacrifice. But it also knows that if it seeks happiness, it's not denying pleasure, it's actually moving towards something that brings more joy. And that's where we want to go. We want to move toward that which brings us more joy. We want to bring more happiness into our experience. There's sometimes when you just feel done. I'm feeling done. We can talk among ourselves for a while. Yeah. The calm mind. It's so funny how hard it can be sometimes to have the calm mind. I mean, I just had that moment just now. I'm sitting there thinking, I've said all I wanted to say. I should have more to say. The brain immediately starts back-talking with you, you know? And sometimes it's just okay to be okay. And if I can admit that to you, you can admit that to yourself and be content with where you are and have a calm mind and allow yourself to be happier still, even when the voices of doubt or criticism are in the back. And you know why they get to be in the back? From doing the spiritual practice. It says, get behind thee, Satan. I am of a calm mind. I'm happy with what I have, and I like it, and it's okay. And so it is. So that brings us to today's hashtag affirmation. John, you're so good to get us to say it twice. I'm going to make you say it one more time. Here we go. Join me with this. I know lasting happiness because I have what I want and want what I have. Post it, tweet it, tell it to somebody, share it with a friend. All right. Sweet. Sweet, sweet, sweet. I think we shall do a healing prayer. It's been such a wonderful week of thanks living. So much to be grateful for. And at the same time, there's so much going on in the world that makes you wonder, why can we be so grateful? Because we're able to witness all that is going on in the world, and we know that we carry the potential within us to eradicate all the pain and all the suffering, all the hurt, that there is enough for everyone. We just need to learn how to do it like in kindergarten. All the things I wanted to know in life, I learned at kindergarten. Share the cookies. Hold hands when you cross the street. Clean up after yourself. We know what to do, so let's hold that in our consciousness as we go into prayer right now. So I know there's one life. That life is God's life. That life is my life and the life of every person right here, right now in this room, every person that is viewing us online, every person that we are thinking about in our mind. There is no separation, no distance between us. The distance is merely an illusion, for when we close our eyes, we can bring into our consciousness anyone that we choose to visualize, and then they are right here, right now, in that space where we know everything that we know in life through the lens of our own consciousness. It may appear to be out there, but whatever is out there must come within here to be recognized and realized. So it is from this understanding that I speak this truth. That whatever situations or conditions are going on in anyone's life, There is a power and a presence within them that knows. It is the presence of the divine. And we call it forth and we activate it through this word. And it allows that presence to come forth as wisdom, as intelligence, as information, as energy, leading to right action, divine guidance, that perfect employment. If someone's struggling with a habit that is no longer serving their life, they're able to move beyond that habit into the joyous experience of an everyday of happiness and pleasure. So we move away from whatever is no longer serving us, and we accept that there is a knowingness within that becomes a reality without as we focus our attention on the possibilities. And we know they are actualities in the lives of all those we hold in our consciousness at this moment. I affirm this good. I'm grateful for all that is, and especially for the power of prayer, for the consciousness that knows, for Dr. Holmes bringing this teaching to us that allows us to speak our word into a law that is immutable. And so we speak that word into that law right now, and with a deep conviction in its power, I release this word to that law and know it is good, done, and complete. Affirm with me now by saying, and so it is. Mm-hmm.